Today is September the 8th, 2015. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University, and today I'm in Grady County and Minco to interview Gene Overton, and this is part of our Cowboy in Everett County project, so thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Let's learn a little bit about you, beginning with when and where you were born.
Okay, I was born here. I was actually born in Chickasha at the hospital, but my parents lived in Minco. I've lived here all my life. The only time I've ever been gone is when I went to Stillwater to OOHRP. So, I'm 53. I was born in 1962, June 4th.
And what did your parents do for a living?
My dad worked on the railroad. He was working on the railroad when I was born. And then later he worked for General Motors for a little while and farmed. He always farmed on the side, no matter what he was doing. And then he ran a service station here in town, a Conoco station, for several years. Probably, I think he had it for like 7 or 8 years, and then he sold it. And I worked there growing up, and then farmed with him on the side also. And then he sold the service station and farmed full time. And I helped him, of course, farm. And then right after I got married, which would have been in 1987, he bought the service station back and had it for like 3 years again. And I helped him with there. Well, he mainly ran it then, and I did the farming, but I helped there some too. So that's what he did, and that's how I came to be here.
When you say farming, what kind of farming?
I raise wheat, alfalfa, cotton, corn, milo, some soybeans, and I have some cattle. And that's kind of what my dad always raised too. And I do quite a bit of custom farming for other people too.
Well, when you were younger, was your home on the farm?
Well, we always lived around town or in town, but we still always farmed. My dad always rented land. He didn't own any land. And until later on, after I guess the first farm he bought was when I was probably in junior high. He always just rented land, and that's mainly what I do. Most of my ground that I farm is rented land, and I have about a little over 3,000 acres that I farm. So I guess he was probably farming 1,500 acres when he quit. He quit in 2007, or actually 2008. 2007, we had a big flood, kind of statewide, when the hurricane came over Oklahoma, and we got 14, 15 inches of rain in just a few hours, and he decided that he was going to retire the next year, and so that's when I started. I bought his equipment and started farming the ground that he had rented and the land that he owned. So.
Well, did you have brothers and sisters?
I have 2 sisters, 2 younger sisters. Polly, who lives here in Minco, and Jenny, who lives in Enid. So
as the only son that came to you
right.
to do all this?
And we all helped. My mom helped, and they when I was in high school, they had a feed store also that my mom ran, and I worked there some. Whenever I was sophomore, junior, senior in high school, after school, I'd go get feed. The feed was made in El Reno, and I'd go pick up feed after school and come back and get friends of mine to help unload it. And they sold plants, like tomato plants and stuff like that in the spring, garden supplies, and then they sold animal supplies, vet supplies, things like that there too. And it's a pretty good little business. And actually, when they were in 1979, Dad and another man here in town decided to build a cotton gin. There was a need for another cotton gin here in town. There was already one here, but they weren't keeping the cotton ginned up on a timely basis, and so they decided to build a new gin. And they combined the feed store with the cotton gin. Whenever they built this gin where we're at right now, the feed store was kind of absorbed in the cotton gin, and they started selling the feed and the vet supplies from here.
And that was in what year?
That was in 1979, I believe. It was my senior year in high school. That was the first year they ginned cotton, which would have been the fall of '79.
So you graduated high school in?
80.
And were you in the FFA or 4-H?
I was in FFA, yes. Every year I could be in it. I was in 4-H before that, but not as actively as involved as I was in FFA.
And when you were working for your dad, were you getting paid or were you free labor?
Actually, I wasn't getting paid per se. My dad told me when I was about, and I started driving a tractor when I was 6 years old, and bought my first tractor when I was 12 years old, and later traded it for a combine when I was 14 years old. So I mean, I've been farming basically my whole life. But my dad told me that if I would work for him, that and not get paid, that when I turned 16, he would buy me a new pickup. And so I did that. And I would say I was never without money. I mean, he always, if I needed spending money, he gave me spending money. But then I was making some money on my own too, doing some custom farming, and I rented some land whenever I was about 14, 15 years old. And so I had a little money coming in from there. And then I had a pretty good show pig operation. I was raising show pigs, and I showed pigs whenever I was in the FFA, and then I started raising my own and selling them, and I had a pretty good, I raised deer rocks and had some pretty good show pigs, and did that for a while. But my dad told me when I went to college, he said, the pigs are going to have to go because I don't have time to take care of them, and I knew that. So that's when I got out of the pig business, was when I went to college.
Well, when you were earning this money along the way, did you have a bank account?
Oh yeah, I had a bank account when I was 14 probably. Had my own checks and everything.
Here in town?
Yeah, well, actually the bank at Union City is where we always bank, which is 5 miles away. So.
Is that pretty unusual for this area, or just, or not? Maybe not.
Probably not at that time. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of kids that had checking accounts, but
At 14,
yeah, but there were some. Yeah. It wasn't unusual to start helping, at a very early age. It's a little bit different times now than it was then. My kids, I didn't let them start helping at that age. Yeah.
You learned how to balance your checkbook early too?
Oh yes. That's just like nowadays. It was hard to keep it balanced then, just like it is today.
Well, you started driving a tractor when you were 6?
Yes.
How did you reach the pedals or whatever?
I had to sit on the front of the seat. About a mile from here is where my mom and dad lived then, and my mom still lives there today. I lost my dad in January, this past January, and it's kind of made for a rough year. But yeah, we were there, and we had a farm about 15 miles to the southwest of here, and he was needing to move this tractor, and there wasn't anybody to help, and so he said, "Why don't you?" Which I had driven it, but I had never driven it out on the road, And he said, "I want you to take this tractor down there," and I never even questioned it. I just got on it and took it down there, and I've just driving ever since.
On the road?
I drove down the road to, it was 15 miles, and he followed me,
Didn't have any issues?
Never had any problems. No.
So the first one you bought, what was it?
It was a John Deere 3010.
And are you still a John Deere?
Pretty much, yeah. I have some other brands, but John Deere's kind of always been the brand that I've always ran.
Was it new or used?
Oh, it was used. Yeah, I couldn't afford anything. So.
And where would you have to go to have it serviced, or did you do that yourself?
There was a dealer here in town at that time. Moss Implement was here in town, and that's who I bought it from. And he was, I don't know what his age was when I bought it. He was probably in his 60s because he kept it open until he was in his 80s. And was a really nice gentleman. It was really helped, somebody like me who was trying to get started. He would, and my dad, he helped my dad get started too when my dad still had the service station. And he would, let you have a tractor or whatever, and you could run it and make money with it until you could afford to make the down payment. He would do that. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, it's kind of different times. They couldn't do that nowadays, and the cost of things is so much more now. But that's kind of, he helped me get started, and of course my dad, he always, helped me, and I could use his equipment if I needed to, and that went all the way up until he sold out. And then after he sold me all of his stuff, he still helped me. Probably worked harder helping me than he did when it was all his stuff, So, but I helped him even after I got out of college and through college. I always helped him, and he'd let me use anything he had, and anything that I bought. He could, he knew he could use anything I had. It worked out pretty good. But a lot of people can't work with their parents like that. It's kind of different because you know, you're working with them, and also that are your family, so you got to get along, you know. And I'm not going to say we never had any problems, but we didn't have very many.
And how early would you have to get up to do all of this?
Oh, whenever I was still in high school, you know, I'd have to get up at 6 o'clock and take care of all my livestock before I went to school, and then, like I said, in the afternoons when I got out of school, or a lot of times after football practice wouldn't be over with till 6, 7 o'clock. Then I'd go get in the truck and go to El Reno and get a load of feed and come back. And usually I'd get one of my friends to help me unload it because it was all in bags, 50-pound bags. And we'd unload a load of feed, and a lot of times, you know, it might be 11 o'clock before we get done.
Well, did you do your homework?
Well,
did you do your homework?
I didn't have much homework. I got most of my work done at school. Very seldom did I have homework. And if I did, I'd usually do it. I'd go to school early, and we'd sit down, and a lot of us would, you know, there was a lot of kids that were, I remember algebra. A lot of kids had trouble with algebra, and if you didn't pick it up right off the bat, it was tough to stay up with the class. And there was 3 or 4 of us that picked it up early, and so we'd sit down, and if we had a problem, we'd work it out with each other. You know, we would do our homework together. And our teacher knew what we were doing because we were doing it at the lunch tables in school. And so that's if I had homework, that's when I usually did it. It was in the morning before school started.
How many were in your class?
We had about 35 all the way through school. I think we ended up, there was only 29 graduated. There was some that moved away right at our senior year, but there was we had 33 to 35 most of the way through school.
Were 1 through 12 together?
Yes. There was a lot, over half of my class went K through 12. I actually didn't go to kindergarten. They offered kindergarten the year before, and it wasn't at the school. They had it at the Baptist church because they didn't have a place for it. The next year, they offered it at the school, and it was optional. You could send your kids or not. And my mom said I don't remember this, but she said she asked me if I wanted to go, and I said no, and so I didn't go. I just started out in 1st grade. I didn't go to kindergarten.
You wanted to drive that tractor.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, during school, once I got to be 14, I could get a motorcycle license, and so I drove a motorcycle. And then as soon as school was over, I'd drive to wherever I knew we had work to do. Before that, I mean, I rode the school bus to a field, and the bus driver would let me off at this place, and I would hop off and go get on the tractor and work till my dad come pick me up. That was before cell phones or anything like that, so you know, if you had trouble, you just sat and waited until somebody came to get you. You know, that's all you could do.
And what would you do for food and such?
Well, this would be after school, and so I'd be fine till dark.
So you mentioned football. You played football?
Played football, yes.
Any other sports?
Played basketball in junior high, but I didn't play. Football was the only thing I played in high school. And we were pretty good. My sophomore year, we were really good. Junior and senior year, we were okay. We weren't anything special.
So it's the Minco what? What was the?
Minco Bulldogs.
Bulldogs. I know just the politics, but I'm not sure what.
Yeah.
And the colors?
Blue and white.
Would you have a favorite subject?
Oh, ag. Ag was my favorite subject probably, but I like math. Math's probably my next favorite subject.
And while we're talking about your parents, what were their names?
Bill and Verna.
And had they gone to college?
No, they both graduated from high school here at Minco. My dad actually went to a country school, probably the last one. I don't know if it was, probably wasn't the last one in the county, but it was one of the last ones in the county to close. And he went to Hazelville. It's out west of here, about 7 or 8 miles, and then north a couple miles. And he went 1st through 8th there, and then came to Minco in 9th grade. And my mom was raised southwest of here. She was actually in the Ampo school district, but her dad wanted her to go to Minco, and there were several kids, and so they got a transfer, and they just lived across the road from Minco school district, and they let them transfer. And so she had went through 1st through 12 here.
How would she get to school? On bus?
Yeah, on bus.
Is the school still standing where your dad went, the country school?
Yes, it was a church, the Hazeldale community. There was a church, and the schoolhouse was across the road. I don't think that's actually the schoolhouse. I think it's just kind of their community building now, but I don't think it's actually the same building. I don't know that for sure, but I think that's right.
So at what point did you decide you wanted to go to college? And then how did you pick where you went?
Well, I was always an OSU fan. I don't know. I don't really know why. I guess my parents, they liked OSU, but I didn't really have any family members or anything that had gone there. I knew it was an ag, had an ag program, and probably I wasn't all that fired up to go to college, but my mom really pushed me and encouraged me to go to college. And so I thought about it, and I thought, I know what I want to do. I want to farm. That's what I want to do, and I don't know how much college is going to help that, but there might come a time where I might not be able to farm, and so I wanted to have something I could fall back on. My mom always told me, if you get a degree, you can go get a job doing anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be in what your degree is in, and so she was probably the one that pushed me to go to college more than anything. My dad, he didn't discourage me, but he was probably in it, and I'm just thinking how he was probably thinking that, that I'm going to lose my help, but he never said anything. He never did say anything, just discouraging me from going, and encouraged me to go actually. And made the same deal with me. My mom made the same deal with me that my dad made whenever I was in high school. She said, if you'll go to college and graduate, when you graduate, we'll get you a new pickup. And so I didn't get paid, I didn't get paid until I was out of college by anybody. So that was my pay, it was a new pickup.
Was it orange?
No, it wasn't orange. I thought about orange, but no, it wasn't. It wasn't orange.
Well, did they go up to campus with you when you were first enrolling and getting
Yes, they did. And actually, before I enrolled, had a friend that was 2 years older than I that had wanted me to join a fraternity. And I knew nothing about fraternities other than what I'd seen in Animal House or whatever. So I wasn't really interested in that at all. But he had a young man come from Watauga, came to recruit me, and came to my house. And my mom and sat down with my mom and dad, and there was 3 guys from the Alpha Gamma Rho house. And so I sat down with them, and they told me all what it was all about. And when it was over with, my mom said, "Now, is there anything we need to sign?" She was ready for me to sign up with them. And I said, "Hold on, Mom, I hadn't decided if this is what, but they really impressed her, and they were impressive men, and it was an impressive organization that I ended up joining and never regretted it. Probably kept me in school, actually.
They have a new house now.
Yes, brand new house.
Pretty new.
I hadn't been in it yet, but it sure looks nice. It's impressive from the street.
They've added rocking chairs. That's a good thing. So your first day on campus. Well, let's back up. Where did you live when you were a freshman?
I lived in the Alpha Gamma Rho house.
As a freshman?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think all the pledges lived in the house.
And how would you enroll? Was that in the day with computers? Oh, it's probably before computers.
They had computers. They were just kind of getting started. I don't really remember. I remember going to enroll. I don't remember really all the process. I had history, had ag orientation, had agronomy, which was what my major ended up being at that time. Had English, and I think I had 17 hours, I believe. I think I had chemistry also for a freshman year.
Pretty full load.
I had a pretty good load. Too much, really.
Agronomy, it's not dirt, it's soil, right?
Well, right. It's kind of plant and soil science.
Right.
They dropped that major, I think, and called it something else. I don't remember what they changed it to, but I think they brought back agronomy just in the last few years.
Spend much time in the library there?
Quite a bit, yeah. I'd go there to study, then get away. That was the most quiet place you could go to study.
Well, did you work on campus, or you came home to work?
I came home to work a lot. I did do some work up there for one of the professors in the forage sorghum division, and did some work out on the research farms, the one at Perkins and the one right on the west edge of Stillwater there.
Have a favorite professor?
Oh, not really. I mean, all my professors were good. Of course, I like the ag professors probably better, just because of subjects that I was more interested in, you know. But I was on the crops judging team while I was up there for 2 years. Professor's name that coached that just completely has gone out of my head, but really liked him. He was an older man. He was probably in his, I say that now, he doesn't seem that old now that I'm getting up there, but he was probably in his 70s. He was an older man. He retired my senior year. He retired. He was my advisor too. So.
Did you have a favorite spot on campus?
Oh, I like the Union. I like that area between the Union and the library. I always enjoyed that area. It was just pretty. It's a nice place to go sit and watch people go by. Out by the fountain. That was probably my favorite places right there.
And what would you do for fun?
Oh, I don't know if I could tell everything I did for fun. There was always a lot to do at the AGR house. There was a lot of social events to go to. Got my pilot's license while I was going to school up there. I was in the Flying Aggies, and I liked to go fly. I had some friends that I didn't have the money to afford a plane or even to go rent one, but I had 2 or 3 friends that did. They either had planes or had the money to go rent planes, and we'd go flying a lot in the afternoons. If we didn't have class or didn't have homework, we'd go maybe fly for a couple hours and come back. I really enjoyed that.
I don't know anything about Flying Aggies. What that would entail?
Oh, it was just a flying club, just pilots. A lot of the instructors were going to grad school or, different things. And it was a college credit. I got college credit for the ground school, and even for the flying part of it too. But I was glad I got my pilot's license, even though I haven't really used it. I just really enjoyed that experience, and it wasn't all that costly at the time. I think I got my pilot's license for less than $2,500. That included the flying time, the ground school, and everything. And it's probably no telling what it costs now. Probably over twice that.
Any close calls?
No, not really. We had really good instructors. Most of my classes would be in the afternoon. My flying class would be in the afternoon, and you'd go. Once we went up towards the end of before I got my license. We were up flying, and we were just about to come into the land, and a norther blew in, and the wind changed just as we were about to land. And the instructor, it kind of shook him up too. It was kind of scary because we were about to land and the wind was going to change, and that would have really changed. You always got to land into the wind, and so we had to pull up and go around and change the whole flight pattern of the airport whenever the wind changed. And so that was probably the closest call I ever had. I even took an aerobatics class after that where we went up and did stunts,
Loop-de-loop
loops and barrel rolls and things like that. That was fun too.
Did your mother know you were doing that?
My mother, yeah, and my mother really never said anything. And then they had you could go parachute over Cushing. They had a place where you could go, and so I decided I was going to do that. I had my pilot's license and all that, and that's the only time my mom put her foot down and said, I haven't said anything, you got your pilot's license and all that, but you're not going to jump out of an airplane. So I didn't go ahead and do that.
Have you done it since?
No, never have. Probably wouldn't do it now. Probably got more sense now than I had then.
Put it on your bucket list.
Yeah.
Were you a member of any other organizations, or that kept you pretty busy between?
I think that was about it. That was the only thing I was really involved in.
How often would you come home?
I came home quite a bit because I had things I was involved in here too, farming and working. I'd say I came home probably at least every other weekend.
To bring your laundry, or did you do that?
No, actually there was a place, and I can't remember the name of it, that would do your laundry. You could take your dirty clothes down there in a basket and set it on the counter, and for like $3.50 you could get your whole basket washed and folded and put in the basket. And so my mom would say, did you bring laundry home? I said, well, no, I can get it done up there for $3.50. She said, oh, that's a better deal, just do that. So that's what I did.
I would agree. or graduation day. What do you recall from graduation day?
Oh, it was the graduation was outside. It was at Lewis Stadium, which has changed now, the Boone Pickens Stadium. But anyway, that's where we had graduation. All my family came up. My grandparents came up, or one set of them did. My sisters came up, and it was a big deal. I had an aunt that had gone. My dad's sister went to college, and she went to OSU for a while. Didn't graduate from there, but it wound up going to SMU. But she was there, and it was a big deal because I was the first one since my aunt and the first one that I know of that had graduated from Oklahoma State. So.
Did your sisters go later?
My oldest sister got married right out of high school, and so she didn't go to college. And my youngest sister went up there, and she graduated from there. I don't know what year. She was 8 years younger than I, so 92 probably she graduated.
So Orange still in the family?
Yes, and I have my oldest daughter graduated from there. Jordan, the one that wrote the letter, she graduated from there a couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago. And then I have two up there right now. My middle daughter, Jensen, is up there, and one of my middle sons, Jacob, is going to school up there. He's a sophomore, and Jensen's a freshman. I have 7 children.
Did they choose to go there, or did Dad say, if you're going to college, that's where you're going?
That's kind of funny because my son, Jacob, he played football here in Minco, and he was an all-state football player, was very good. And he had a chance to go to Oklahoma Baptist and play football. And so he did that his freshman year. He went there and played football and decided that wasn't what he really wanted to do. And so, and he liked OBU okay, but he had always planned on going to Oklahoma State until this football deal had come along. And so after he had decided that he didn't want to be playing football anymore, which is really a strain on you. I can't imagine trying to go to college and play sports. Even whenever I was in school, I had some friends that were football players, and they had no free time. So anyway, this past summer, he said, "What do you think about if I transfer to OSU?" I said, "Well, it'd be great." That's kind of where he always wanted to go anyway. So my daughter Jensen, that's up there, they've never wanted to go anywhere else. We've had season football tickets up there for several years, so they're a lot more familiar with the campus than I was. Whenever I went to school, I'd never been on campus until I decided that's where I was going, what I was going to do. So.
And then
Jordan graduated from there. She had a real good experience there. She got married in May, and her husband Laramie's an ag teacher at Elgin. Just got a job there this summer, and he graduated from Oklahoma State as well. So now I've got a lot of ties to OSU.
You sure do. Lots of orange all around.
Lots of orange.
Was Bedlam a big deal when you were there?
Oh yes.
Was it?
Yes. Probably every bit as big as it is now. Yeah. It was big.
Did they ever? Do you remember if OSU beat OU while you were there?
They didn't ever beat them while I was there. 76 they beat them before I got there. I remember that when Terry Miller was playing. They beat them. But I went to a game in Norman. A friend of mine that got me in the Alpha Gamma Rho house, he and I went to Norman to watch a game. That would have been, it was after we had graduated. It was when Gundy was quarterback, and Hartley Dykes and Thurman Thomas were playing, and we were pretty sure we were going to beat them that year in Norman, and so we went over there, and we swore we'd never go back to Norman to a football game, and I haven't to this day. I haven't had a chance to go a few times, but no, I'm not going back there.
Do you go back for homecoming? Walk around and all of that?
Try to. Don't always make it to the walk around, but we try to take the kids up there at least for the parade that morning. And like I said, we have season tickets, so we usually always try to go to the game.
Well, with 7 children and 3 already there, the other 4 will probably head that way too.
Well, the oldest one didn't go. My oldest son, Josh, he didn't go. He went to work out of high school. Never really had a desire to go to college, and that's fine. I told him college isn't for everybody. He did actually try it for a year, but it wasn't for him. The 3 that are still home, I still have 3 in school, and have one that's a junior, have one that's a freshman, and one that's a 7th grader. And they're probably going to go this year.
Good. Not ag? All of them?
None of them have been in ag. So, well, Jordan was in ag communications for a while, and I don't know what I can't remember what her degree was actually in, what she finally got, but it wasn't ag communications. Jacob is kind of undecided right now. Jensen's psychology major, what she's majoring in. If any of them go up there with an ag, to get an ag degree, it'd probably be my youngest, Jackson. He probably has more interest in the farm, except for my oldest son. My oldest son just, in the last few months, just came back to help me on the farm. He's decided that's what he wants to do. So.
Did you let any of them get on a tractor at age 6?
Not drive it, no. No, like I said, it's a little bit different times. The equipment's a lot bigger, costs a lot more. But they've all, the one that's a 7th grader is my youngest. He started helping a little bit. The rest of them have all helped. So.
We should probably back up and mention wife, the mother of these children.
Right. And my wife went to Oklahoma State for 1 year. She was from here. She was from Minco. She's younger than me. She's about 5-6 years younger than me. So I was out of college when she was still in school. But her and my youngest sister were pretty good friends, and that's how I kind of got acquainted with her. She was coaching my youngest sister's summer league basketball team whenever we started dating. But she was going to OSU. Her older brother went to OSU, went to vet school. He graduated from vet school there. He's a vet now in Tulsa, Michael. But she went there for 1 year, and we decided we were going to get married. And so I hate to tell you where she graduated from. She graduated from OU. And she doesn't tell very many people that, because she was OSU all the way, and she still is, even though she graduated from OU. But that's when I knew she really loved me. And whenever she left OSU, we graduated from OU, and she commuted back and forth and graduated.
Well, did OSU offer what she was wanting to get her degree in?
Yeah, she was physical therapy is what she was wanting to be. She was wanting to be a physical therapist. And then after a couple of years into that, she decided that wasn't what she really wanted to do. And so she decided she was going to be a school teacher. So she got a degree in elementary ed. And that she teaches school. She teaches 4th grade over at Bridge Creek. So,
a lot of patience.
Yes. And she's a good teacher. She really is. But she didn't start teaching. Actually, we got married, like I said, between her freshman and sophomore year in college. And then she was pregnant with our oldest son when she was a senior. When she graduated, she was actually pregnant with our oldest son, Josh. And she was a stay-at-home mom until the youngest one started school. And then she had taught a little bit. She taught up here at Minco for a semester when there was a teacher that was sick and was unable to teach, and so she filled in. But she really didn't start teaching full-time for real until the last one started school. And then she got this job at Bridge Creek, and she really loves it.
4th grade's an interesting grade, too.
Yes. She likes the grade. That's a good age.
They already know how to read for the most part.
Yes. They're
math,
still sweet, she says.
Yes.
Before all the hormones kick in.
You still have season tickets?
Yes.
For all 9 of you? Now, let's see, they're doing my math.
Well, the oldest ones, I've told that if they want season tickets, they had to buy their own. The 2 that are in college are buying student tickets, so we've been able to cut back on our tickets a little bit. So the ticket bill is not as high as it's been.
Do you usually have a tailgate party?
Not usually. We usually get there at least an hour before the game, and we'll go in and eat. Tailgate in the stadium usually. Now sometimes my sister and her husband, my youngest sister Jennifer, who graduated from there, sometimes they'll have a tailgate party, and if they do, they'll usually call us and we'll maybe go swing by there for a little bit. Usually we're running behind, and we get there, we get to the stadium, we'll go to the game. And then I have a friend here in town that he has 2 tickets, and I buy all the tickets, and then he pays me for 2 of them. And we've been doing that for 20 years plus probably, and we sit with him, and he usually takes one of his nieces or nephews, and we always have our kids, and there's several people here in Minco that have season football tickets, and they usually all come by and see us before we have our same spots we've had for 10, 15 years.
You have a moving caravan then?
Yeah, yes.
Or a posse, your own posse. You usually go up 81 or you go up?
No, we go up, take the
fast
Kilpatrick. Well, yeah, that's really short the time you get there.
And basketball's not?
I've had season basketball tickets. The friend of mine I was telling you about that shares the football tickets with us, he and I have had season basketball tickets a few times, but it's too hard. There's so many games, and they're usually at night, and it's late getting home. Yeah, and I'm usually busy here at the Cotton Gin during that time too, and so that makes it hard to go. So we kind of quit getting them.
Well, once you graduated from high school, take us through what you did after, not necessarily with your degree, but career-wise. You came back here and started doing what?
Let me start when I graduated from college.
Yes.
I graduated from college. I came back and bought a trailer house and moved across the road over here. My dad had a farm just across the road here from the Cotton Gin, and lived there and just started farming, helping my dad, working for him, and he was paying me then after I got out of college. And
you already had your truck.
I already had my truck. Yes, had some of my own equipment, and did that's probably what I did most of was custom farming. I did put hay up for people, cut and bale their hay, all kinds of different custom work when it came to farming. But then I'd also, like in the wintertime when it was slow, I'd work at the Cotton Gin, or because they built this here, and they always needed employees during the season. I'd work there.
What would you do?
Whatever they needed me to do.
About what, for instance, those of us who don't know much about what goes on in Cotton Gin?
Well, at that time, they had everybody harvested their cotton and dumped it into wagons or trailers, and this whole yard out here would be completely covered with trailers, and so somebody had to keep them lined up. They had to be run through the gin in the order they came in, keep everybody happy. And so I did some of that, moving the trailers around. Then you had to, when they actually ginned that wagon, they had a big suction pipe, kind of like a big vacuum tube, and you had to get up there and swing that tube and suck that cotton out of that wagon. Mm-hmm. And I did a little bit of that, not a whole lot, but just kind of whatever they needed me to do, just general, whatever needed to be done, that's what I did.
Sucking, where does it go when you suck?
Went into the gin and started cleaning and being processed. Drove a truck a little bit. I got my chauffeur's license not too long after I got out of college, so I could drive a truck. I just did whatever I needed to do to make a living, I guess. Then after we got married, after Michelle and I got married, I've tried all different kinds of things. I worked at the lumber yard one winter. There was a lumber yard here in town. It's not here anymore, but I worked there. Raised vegetables and produce. When the year that Jordan was born, which would have been in 1992, I had about 15 acres of produce. I had 1,200 tomato plants, had 400 pepper plants, had 4 acres of sweet corn, had okra, had about an acre of okra. That was probably the hardest I've ever worked in my life, was that summer. It was, and really it wasn't that profitable either. You couldn't do it all yourself, you had to hire help, and by the time you paid your help, there wasn't much left. So.
Can't do much with machinery for that.
No, it was all basically hand picked. And I'll never forget we did that. And Michelle was pregnant with Jordan that year, and she picked tomatoes up until Jordan was born in July the 15th. And she was picking tomatoes up within a week of when Jordan was born, and so it was quite a summer.
Hot during that time too.
Yes. Yeah. And then after that, there was a period of time there. I wondered, is this what I really want to do? And I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And so just kind of made up my mind that this is what I'm going to do, whatever I got to do to make it happen. And started farming probably a few more acres. The opportunity came along to rent some ground and did that. And then my dad was doing a lot of custom hay work, and he was kind of wanting me to take that over, and so I took that over. And that was a little more steady income during the summer. And so I've kind of continued doing that all the way up until now. I've always had some of my own land that I bought a farm about 15 years ago. That's the only farm that I still own. The rest of it, all the ground I farm, I lease from others. I've never went and asked anybody to lease ground. They've always contacted me, and I've always felt good about that. I've never, rented anybody out of their property or anything. There's some that they took it away from someone to give it to me, let me farm it, but they did it on their own. I have never rented anybody out. I can say that very proudly, that I've always, every farm that I have, that I farm, that I lease, the landowner has came to me and wanted me to farm it, so.
I noticed windmills coming in, or any of this land you have to go around?
Some of the land that I custom farm has wind towers on it, but none of my own land that I rent has any wind towers on it.
They cause any issues?
No, there's some good and there's some good and bad to them. I don't really have a problem with them. I thought they did a pretty good job of trying to put things back like they were, before they put the towers there. Now I've seen some places that it's caused some problems, but as far as what I have been associated with, it's not that big a deal. The noise is probably the only thing that I don't care for. If you're right up next to them, you can't hear them. If you're half a mile away downwind, that's when you can hear them. It kind of sounds like a jet engine roaring all the time.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But if you're standing up next beside one, you can't hear it at all.
They're huge when you get up.
They're big. They are big.
I didn't realize they were any south of I-40, because you see them going the other direction. So
there's a pretty good bunch of them. They start just to the southeast of here and run for all the way almost to Henry.
I noticed coming into town, I crossed Buggy Creek. Do you know how it got its name, or how do you think?
Probably from years ago, people getting stuck in it with buggies is what I would say. But Buggy Creek is there's really fertile ground. I have a lot of land on Buggy Creek, and it's I'd put it up against anybody's ground anywhere in the state. It's really good. It's kind of sub-irrigated. It's a little bit sandy, and it farms pretty easily. The only problem is from time to time Buggy Creek gets out of the banks and floods it, and that's why it's so good. So that's the only problem you got to worry about, is a lot of rainfall in the creek getting out. But yeah, Buggy Creek is really good land.
Has the drought impacted what you've done the last couple of years?
The drought was really, it was the driest I'd seen in my lifetime. And my dad, like I said, lost him in January, but it was the driest he had ever seen it too. There were ponds and wells that were drying up that had never been dry, that he had ever remembered since he was a kid. And he'd lived here all his life. So yeah, it was pretty tough. It was you keep thinking, well, surely we'll have a normal year. Well, I don't know if you ever have a normal year when you're farming. It's either, this year it was rain, years 3 or 4 years before this has been drought. So you just got to realize that that's part of it, and go on, make the best of it.
Farm insurance?
Have crop insurance.
Or crop.
Yeah. Have crop insurance, and it's really helped in the last few years. I didn't have any crop insurance up until probably about 10 years ago, and the very first year I took it out on my wheat, that next spring my wheat froze out, and I really collected good on it, and so I've been keeping it ever since. And some years, most years you don't collect on it, and you hope you never have to collect on it. Insurance is one of the deals you hope you never have to collect on. It's paid me. It paid really good on my wheat this past year. My wheat was not very good this past year. There in May, it rained for 3 straight weeks. We had about 25 inches right here around Minco in May in 3 weeks' time, and that was when the wheat was, trying to mature, and so it was not very good. But the insurance paid, enough to keep going. So.
Did you ever do the wheat harvest with our working combine?
Yeah, actually I did when I was in college. My dad bought a new combine in 1982, and that was when I was between my sophomore and junior year. And actually, I took that combine, and my brother-in-law, he had a combine, and we went on wheat harvest. And he was going before that, and went after that, but I just went those 2 years, and we went to all the way to South Dakota. In fact, the last year I went, I came back. They were still up there cutting, and I came back, got home on a Friday, and started college on Monday, my senior year. I had a guy that went with me to help, and drove truck, and so we came back, and they stayed up there and finished up, and they ended up going on to Minnesota, but South Dakota was as far as I ever went. Usually I went to Colorado. Actually, I think I went actually the next year after I graduated also. But whenever I was my senior year, starting my senior year, I had to come back early just so I could get back to college.
Where would you sleep when you would do that?
We had a little travel trailer we stayed in. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. My dad went on wheat harvest when he was a kid, and he'd always tell me, he said every kid ought to go on wheat harvest. And whenever I was in grade school, my dad had 2 combines, and he sent 4 boys that were still, one of them was a sophomore, and the other 3 just graduated from high school. He sent those 4 boys with his 2 trucks, 2 combines, and a pickup, and sent them on wheat harvest. Now, I can't imagine doing that nowadays, but those 4 boys took those combines and went all the way to Chadwick, Nebraska, cutting wheat.
Without adult supervision?
No adults. My dad went up there a few times. They had a tendency to pull into a town where everybody was cutting wheat already, instead of going, say, another 40, 50 miles farther to where they were just starting to cut wheat, because they would pull into a town, get a job, cut that, and then wheat harvest was over there, and they'd have to load up and move on. And so he went up there and explained to him, you need to move a little bit farther, and then you can stay in a spot for at least a week or so, and then move again. So that's what they did. But pretty responsible boys to take a crew and go do something like that.
And their parents trusted them to.
Yes, and they were good. They were good guys. They really were.
And have your kids been on a wheat harvest?
None of them have had the desire. Josh, my oldest, would probably be the only one that would have wanted to go, and he never really has said anything about going either.
Oh, now the machines are so expensive. I don't know you'd send a teenager off with one.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to be used to running one for a period of time before I turn them loose on a machine that costs, $250,000 or more dollars.
Well, did you learn anything at OSU that applies to what you?
Oh yeah, yes. A lot of my agronomy classes were very helpful. Plant physiology, soil morphology, all those things have been helpful to me. I took an irrigation class, even though I don't have any irrigation. I learned a lot in that class just about how you irrigate and all the processes. That was probably one of my most enjoyable classes, even though I don't even irrigate. I really enjoyed that class. Learned a lot about flow. It applies to other areas too. But yeah, I learned a lot of the things, more than I ever thought I would when I went there. I didn't think some of that stuff would ever help me, but it has. I think college, though, more than anything, it's the contacts you make and the lifelong friends that you make. I have friends in the AGR house up there that I'm still very close to. A lot of friends that weren't in the AGR house that I still see, and a lot of people that work for farm-related things. If you have a problem, you can call. If you have a question about something, there's a lot of people I can call. If I have a problem with something and want to find out information, I can usually have a friend somewhere that's I can contact and find that out. So.
County agents, extension agents.
Some of the extension agents that in the state right now are some that I went to school with. Yeah, and they're the county extension agents are very helpful even today to me.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Minco. How has it changed since your high school days?
Since my high school days,
or earlier.
It hasn't grown all that much, but it has grown kind of steadily, which is good. there's a lot of communities around here that have grown very rapidly. They've outgrown their schools and their infrastructure. And Minco's beginning to outgrow its infrastructure. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a new water tower in town they just put up this summer. They built a new high school just on the south side of town. And that's due to the windmills mainly. That's the tax money from the wind towers are allowing them to be able to build a new high school. But it hasn't changed. The businesses have changed. Some of them closed down, some of them have changed. Used to have, whenever I was in grade school, we had 3 grocery stores in town. Now we don't have any. The grocery store burned down about 15 years ago, about 10 years ago. And nobody's built one back. I wish we had a grocery store. Got the Dollar General. It was built about 5 years ago, and it's been really helpful. But Minco hasn't changed all that much. It was about 1,100 people, I think, whenever I was in school, and it's probably 1,500 to 1,700 now. So it has grown. We've had some new housing additions go in, but there's farmland on 3 sides of Minco, and the people that owned that land weren't interested in selling it, so it kind of limited on how fast Minco can grow. And some of that land started coming up for sale now, and so there's been some new housing additions go in. Because of that, they're having to do some work on the infrastructure, and it's not easy to do in a small town because there's not a lot of money.
Did it have a movie theater when you were growing up?
There was a movie theater whenever I was pretty young. I can remember going to the movie theater, but I'm going to say probably before I was 8 years old, it closed down. So yeah, I'm going to say probably about the time I was about 8 years old, about 1970 probably.
What's the county seat? Is it Chickasha?
Chickasha.
And how far is that from here?
18 miles. That's where I was born, at the hospital there in Chickasha.
So when people go to shop, do they go to Oklahoma City, or is El Reno the closest?
El Reno's probably the closest, like Walmart, that's close to Walmart. Or now it's not, if you go through Total, it's not too far to get to Mustang. A lot of people go to Mustang. We're in a pretty good spot. We're still small. You still have the rural life, but you are also close enough. If you want to go out and eat at Oklahoma City, it's 35, 40 minutes away. You can get Oklahoma City someplace.
Hop on I-40 and go whichever direction.
Getting to Stillwater is a lot better now than it used to be since the turnpike. Used to you had to go either up 81 all the way to Hennessy or go on I-35 to Oklahoma City. And all the time I was going to Stillwater, they were working on I-35 up there around Frontier City. It was always construction. The whole time I was going. For 4 straight years, there was construction somewhere that would slow you down. So I usually went up through Hennessy or Crescent or somewhere.
Do you remember the song?
Oh yeah.
The Alma Mater. I won't ask you to sing it.
I'm not going to sing it. I can tell you the words, but I'm not going to sing it. You're not going to get me to sing it.
I know part of the words, and I'm not singing either, so we're good.
Okay. Donna might come and sing it back in the office.
You consider Minco home?
Yes.
Not considered living anywhere else?
Been to lots of places, never even considered living anywhere else.
And what is it about Minco that holds you here?
I don't know. Probably diversity. As far as farming goes, we may not be able to grow corn as good as they can grow in Iowa, or we may not be able to grow cotton as good as they can grow in the Delta, but there's not very many places that you can grow just about any type of crop. I mean, there's some crops like sugar cane or something like that you couldn't grow here, but we can grow about any crop here. Maybe not as good as they can grow it somewhere else, but we can grow it, and that's good for me, to have some diversity of what I can do. And the landscape, we're kind of where there's some flat areas, there's some rolling areas. You can go west of here 7 or 8 miles and you get into timber. We don't really have any mountains here, but there's hills, so of all the places I've been, it's the best place I've ever found.
It's home.
It's home. And I enjoyed my time in Stillwater too. I mean, Stillwater was, and still is, you still get that small town feeling when you go to Stillwater, even though it's not a small town. months, and it's really growing too. But you still has that feel when you go into town. It's just, I think it has to be the people is what makes it feel like that.
Well, it's changed, I would assume, quite a bit since the 80s,
It's really changed.
too.
Yes, it's really changed. There's lots and lots of new businesses, and the university's really changed. Of course, all the dorms are going down, and the new ones are going up in their place. And even where I stay in the AGR house, it's gone, and there's a new house there. But still the feel of the university and campus area, you still just get that small town, hometown feel.
Beta Pond, was that a favorite spot?
Yeah, it was a nice place. Nice place to go throw somebody in.
And why would you throw them?
Well, if somebody got engaged in the AGR house, that was carried them down to them and Theta Pond. That was just
In the
what you
80s you did that?
Mhm.
So but you didn't get engaged until you graduated?
Didn't what?
You didn't get engaged until you
Oh, no, I was long
graduated.
gone from there, yeah.
You just helped throw
Yeah, I
someone
just
up
helped
in.
carry him down there and throw him in.
Is it pretty deep? It's probably not very deep.
It's not very deep.
Just-
But it was cold in the wintertime. I never got thrown in, but it was cold.
Was there ever a time you thought, oh, I'm not going to finish, let's just quit, hang it up and go home?
Oh, yeah, probably between my freshman and sophomore year. I really had a hard time going back that year. I don't know why.
Probably kids do. But
Yeah. I had some friends in the AGR house that they were everybody there, you had to be an ag major. So not everybody was from a small town, but probably 75% of them were. So, you had somebody that could relate to you and you could relate to. And I had a friend from Sperry who's the ag teacher at Blackwell now. And he and I were pretty close, and we'd go out driving in the country, just talk, and he probably talked me from quitting, and I talked him from quitting several times. We were probably home. I mean, we were homesick. That's what the deal was. When you grew up in the same town and you're close to your parents, like most farm kids are, then it's tough being away from them. It really is.
So your grandparents lived here too?
Yes.
Did they own a farm?
My grandpa on my dad's side, he farmed, but he never owned, well, he did own a farm before I was born, but he had sold it. He always worked construction jobs in Oklahoma City, building like office buildings and things like that, or whatever needed to be built. But he always farmed on the side too. He had a farm rented. My other grandpa, which was on my mom's side, he was quite a bit older. He was probably 15 years older than my other grandpa, and he had already retired by the time that my memory, but he farmed too. Yeah, my mom was raised on a farm, grew up picking cotton and hoeing cotton, and both my parents, they didn't have electricity or running. Well, they had electricity, but they didn't have running water in their house until the first house when they got married.
And when was that?
Oh, what year did they get married? That would have been 59, I think, when they got married. That was the first house they lived in. Was they rented a house when they got married, and that's the first house that either one of them had that had running water. They did have electricity, but they didn't have running water. So they grew up pretty poor.
Outhouses then.
Outhouses, yeah.
Had your grandparents grown up here too, or just trying to figure out how
they came here?
To be here?
My great grandpa Overton was from out in the Wheeler, Texas area, and I really don't know how he wound up here, but he lived here. He was kind of a traveling minister, the best I can tell. He's always kind of been a bit of an oddity, and nobody ever really has said what he did for sure. But that's best I can tell. That's what he was. And then my grandpa, great grandpa on my mom's side, they were from down in southeastern Oklahoma, and I can't tell you either one of them why they settled in Minco. Sure, I'm glad they did.
Is there a religion that's more prominent than another here?
Baptist is probably the biggest. Yeah, I'm a Presbyterian. That's where I go to church. I've gone there since I was a little kid. My mom and dad started going there, and I've been going there ever since. I'm actually an elder in the church. I've been an elder for 25 years. So I was pretty young when I became an elder in the church. But yeah, and my kids all go, and my son Jacob that's going to OSU right now, that's a sophomore. He's leaning towards ministry. He's kind of what he thinks he wants to be. He wants to be a youth minister or some type of minister.
Well, that'll take him away from OSU then.
Do what now?
That'll take him away from OSU.
Well, I think he's probably going to get his degree and then maybe go to seminary. It's kind of what he's thinking right now. So, yeah, proud of all the kids though, what they've accomplished so far and what they're doing. All of them have different interests, and it's kind of fun to see that. Having 7 like that, you'd think that a couple of them would be pretty similar, but they're all different. All different.
And do they have chores?
Yes, they have chores at the house, and of course, the boys help me during the summer. This past 2 summers, we've chopped weeds out of cotton field, which is kind of something that hadn't been done in a long time, but we're getting a lot of resistant weeds to the chemicals, the herbicides right now, and the hardest work that I know of is chopping weeds out of cotton because it's hot. It's just not fun at all, and I hate it as bad as they do. But I've been trying to, I want them to know what it is to have to do manual labor, and hopefully make them realize how important it is to get an education where you don't have to do this. Of course, I'm out there doing it, and I got mine, but it's still, I'm hoping I'm teaching them how to work. And if a child knows how to work, then I'm not worried about, what they do. They'll always be able to make it doing something, as long as they're not afraid to work. So.
But the daughters aren't helping?
The daughters help chop cotton also. Yes, they do. And they help. They haven't drove a tractor very much. They help me move a lot. I'm scattered for about 30 miles to the southwest, all the way to a farm at land all the way to Anadarko from here. And so we spend a lot of time moving equipment, and the girls have always helped with that. And my wife has a snow cone stand, and they work there. The girls work there, and the boys work there some too. So that's kind of gives them something to do in the summertime if I don't have something to do.
What was the name of your dad's gas station?
Bill's Conoco.
Back in my head. I should have asked that earlier.
Oh, that's all right.
So your gas bill's quite high then if you're moving equipment 30 miles.
Yes, I have. You wouldn't even want to know how much my fuel bill is every month.
That's changed a lot. I don't want to
yes,
imagine.
It's gone. I don't consider myself that old, but I remember 35, 40 cent gasoline when my dad had the station the first time. People would come in and get $2 or $3, and that would run them for a week.
Yeah.
Nobody ever filled their tank up hardly. They just came in and got $2 or $3. And I worked there growing up. When I was in school too. Like I said, after I got a little bit older and got where I could go farm without anybody being there with me or taking me here or there, well, from that time on, I pretty well did farming, and my dad ran the station. If it rained or something, I'd go there.
Well, did they raise things like chickens and where they'd have to kill those and sort of?
My grandparents did. My parents never did. But yeah, my grandma Overton, she always had chickens, and they'd buy little ones, little chicks, and raise them up, and a couple times a year they'd butcher chickens. Whenever I was growing up, whenever I was probably junior high age and younger, my grandpa Overton and his brother, they butchered their own hogs every year, and I got to help with that. I wished I would have been older and learned more about that. But I helped kill them, I helped skin them, all that, But I never did really learn how to cut the meat up, and I wished I would have been older and learned that, because that's just something that I think would be neat to know more about. If I had to butcher something, I could today, but cutting it up, I probably messed that up pretty bad.
Well, they had meat, no, it's meat judging that you would have at OSU.
Yeah.
Not that part of it, other than that.
No, my oldest daughter Jordan, she was on the meat judging team here in the FFA, but she never did do it at OSU. And Jacob, that's up there now, he was on the meat judging team here. My youngest daughter Gentry is on the livestock judging team here in the FFA, and they're pretty good. In fact, she was the high individual at the state contest back in the spring. So she's pretty good at it. And I think she's leaning towards going to OSU, but she may go to a junior college and judge livestock on a livestock judging team. It's pretty hard to get on the OSU livestock judging team.
They're pretty good.
And you got to start out and go to a junior college. But I don't know. I'd rather see her start at OSU, but whatever she wants to do, it'll be fine.
Well, any advice for current students?
Oh, same advice I'd give to anybody. Just work hard. Students, go to class. If you're having problems, talk to your professors. I never had a professor that wouldn't help me if I was struggling. So I did. It took me about a semester or a year and a half to learn that. If I'm having trouble, I need to go talk to them because they really will. They really help you, and you get to know them. They get to know you. It's just makes for a whole lot better college experience. I think. Stick it out. There's going to be times where you're not going to be happy. You're going to want to go home. But I would encourage everybody just to stick with it. You'll never regret getting that degree. Even if you don't, I don't use mine that much. It doesn't do me that much good. I'm still very proud that I got it.
Anything else you want to add before we close? We've covered a lot.
I don't guess I really have anything to add.
My last question is usually to have people tell me how would they like to be remembered.
Well, you should have asked me that so I could be thinking about that before you got here. I guess I don't really want to be remembered for anything that I have accomplished, just that I've always been honest, fair with everybody I've come in contact with, that hopefully everybody can tell from the way I live that I'm a Christian. I was raised that way. I've tried to raise my kids that way, and hopefully anybody that I come in contact with knows that. And my character, I guess, is what I want to be known for, not necessarily in my accomplishments. Hopefully my children reflect me and my wife, and that's my legacy, is my children.
It's a good way to end, isn't it? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.